Hello everyone and welcome again to another video in which we try to help students to write better essays, either for exams or just for regular assignments. Again, my name is Dr. Bakhsh I'm lecturer at Jalfa University. So today we are going to talk about developing the introduction. You see, last time I asked a question, how can active and interactive learning be fostered and tested? This is one of the questions of last year PhD entrance exam. And I have given or I have provided 5 introduction when I tried to tackle this question. I asked you for your opinion concerning these introduction, and mostly you all agreed, or most of you agreed that the first one is the best one. So what I did, so I'm trying to develop that introduction. Of course, this essay is not complete yet. I'm going to tackle all the essential elements. So let's start. So the introduction that I did was, so we said it's rather truism that interactive learning is one of the important tenets in communicative approaches. So what we did here is like we related active and interactive with communicative approach. In the latter, learners are required to be actively engaged in authentic classroom activities in which they learn by doing. So it's like I'm giving heavy emphasis on learners. However, that cannot be achieved without learners devoting considerable attention, having curiosity, participating, and working in collaboration. So this is what's asked from learners. Yet, that learners constitute only one aspect in the learning process. So I'm not going to talk only about learners. So this is here, it's like an outline to my essay. Contemplating the approach adapted, the material used, and the role of the teacher is necessary. So exactly this is what I'm going to say. So as if I'm talking with the one is going to correct my paper and said I'm going to talk about materials, the role of the teacher. All of this is going, even the approach. Equally important is the imperative for practitioners to test and assess interactive learning. This side I'm not going to talk about in this video. So let's start with the body paragraph number 1, in which I'm going to talk about the approaches and active learning. So communicative approaches stand as a natural choice, as one of the principles underlying these approaches is the engagement of learners in authentic acts of communication, promoting the notion of learning by doing. For instance, in Algeria, the curriculum is driven by two approaches that bear considerable similarities with communicative approaches. So it's like I'm giving here a concrete example: task-based language teaching and project-based learning. In the latter, learners are asked to take part in the learning process by doing meaningful tasks, which later are translated into a project. You see here what I did? I simply, it's like I have given definition of communicative approaches. I presume that most of you will either prepare or are going to learn by heart some kind of definition of these concepts. If you think that this introduction, this body paragraph is good, I think you should really consider. For me, it's not good. It says something about communicative approach, but it easily can be deemed like this is off the topic. So I ask you about active, yes, indeed, it is included here, but it seems not related. And what is missing, I always say this, it's like one sentence that really relates the paragraph, a body paragraph with the introduction. So let's see my real body paragraph is. It's like this. That sentence, which I highlighted with yellow, is missing. So what I said, although active and interactive learning occurs inside the classroom, so this is what we are looking for, the attempt to foster it has to start from the philosophy adapted, which is simply the theory or the approach. As if what I'm saying, I'm trying to convincing, and this is what I mean by the rhetoric of writing. This is so important. It's like I'm convincing anyone who's reading that, hey, you should really listen and read what I'm saying concerning the importance of the approach with active and interactive learning. See, that sentence only is responsible for making the whole paragraph shines. So this is, I really always insist, even if you're writing essays, either your thesis, your dissertation, always remember that there is one sentence that's going to link everything, and without which maybe you will, someone will feel that you are off track. So this is concerning the first paragraph. And the second one, we say, well, I'm going to talk about the role of the teacher. You see here we said, however, An approach is just an assumption. So this is simply the definition of the approach. It is the task of the teacher to render it to an actionable plan that ensures active learning. So we said, okay, this is the approach. The approach is just philosophy. And again, we need an action. We need action. So a plan has to include what? The sequence of steps, activities, and well thought of strategies. It does not come as a surprise that sometimes, even when the teacher's plan is driven by a communicative approach, remember, sometimes the choice of word is very, very important. I did not say, for example, teacher's plan is communicative approach, because an approach is a philosophy you can be driven by, but you can't use it directly. So the actual teaching in class tells another story, and we see this every day. Sometimes we, even in our classroom, for example, in Algeria, we said that we use the communicative approach. Yet sometimes only are going to find like traditional way of teaching. Therefore, practitioners, the word practitioners sometimes save you instead of saying teachers, or you just use practitioners, need to deploy techniques that encourage group work, role play, critical thinking, and opinion sharing. Thus, the function and the status of the teacher, simply the role, has to adapt to such kind of classroom. The teacher can no longer be the knower or the sage on the stage, but he or she needs to be a monitor and a facilitator whose job to provide information and set frameworks for communication. This is one of the things I always talk when, for example, when which students are going to revise for exams like PhD, in which they really have to like memorize and learn by heart so many concepts. We try to really make this process efficient as possible by trying to, yes, you know the concept. See what I did, for example, in this paragraph. It can be easily turned to a paragraph in which I can talk about the role of the teacher instead. But yeah, adding just few sentences, few key sentences, I can turn this and relate it to my introduction. So always remember to do this. No one wants to read something. I feel just you are defining something and you are not talking with me, and you have completely forgotten about the question. Now, number three, I'm going to talk about the role of learners. So, placing heavy emphasis on active classroom activities means learners need to undertake new roles. So, it's like simply what I did. I relate the introduction to the role of learners. In the classroom, learners need to be participants, monitors, and innovators. Such as for the first role, learners need to develop sense of group work, sharing information, collaborating to come to a final solution. Concerning the second role, since there are no lessons for teaching language, you see this sentence is a bit off because I'm talking about language. Learners have to observe to determine what kind of tools required to complete the task, especially if we are talking about task-based approach. Now, unlike learners in regular class, here learners have to be innovative. Bringing new ideas to the classroom is a crucial element, without which the learning process will revert back to traditional ways, since the teacher has to go back to the center of the classroom. So this is simply what you mean by active learning. If learners are not active, of course, you will have passive teaching again. And simply this sentence, this paragraph, you can take it either if you want to talk about the role of the learners, you can talk about how the role of learners changed from the past. So several questions, in fact, can be answered by only by this paragraph. You just need to change few sentences. Next, which is the last one, we talk about the materials. As I said, I mentioned in my in my introduction that I'm going to talk about materials. Now, materials used inside the classroom can have an impact on the interaction between teachers and learners. Therefore, they should not be overlooked. Now, there is no question that the implementation of modern technology boosts learners' participation. In this regard, research shows that ICTs are often responsible for active engagement of learners, as they provide a dynamic environment in which teachers can design new and interactive activities, sorry, it's a spelling mistakes, that keep students motivated throughout the whole lesson. You see, if you remove the first sentence, the paragraph is going to be simply about the benefit of ICT. So if you remember it, if you have dealt with it before, you know it. But when I added that first sentence, I link it back to my topic, and this is so important because sometimes you're reading you are reading and we correct a paper, then all of a sudden you feel that that student is really off track. Maybe he or she is not really off track, but just providing like definitions which seems like not related. So be careful. I always say being off track sometimes is only a matter of one sentence missing, maybe, or one sentence added in wrong place. So this is today my essay. What I was missing is still missing the testing side and the conclusion. But this at least is going to give you a very good idea how to develop an essay and how to develop your introduction and make you everything connected. So we are looking for that coherence, that cohesion in your essay. So I do hope that you have benefited from this video. And of course, I really appreciate your comments, the questions. I try as much as possible to answer them. And stay tuned for another video. Please subscribe and like the video if you liked it. Thank you so much.